Hello, leaders. Thank you for tuning in to yet another installment in the LabLeaderCoach.com video vignettes. Tonight's 20-minute video, Management versus Leadership, It Takes One to Know One. I will be comparing management and leadership and providing you some practical knowledge and valuable tips on how to become a more effective leader. I'm so excited to share this information with you. I'll be covering everything from developing personal values, setting goals, creating a vision, emotional intelligence, and effective communication. I am confident that you're going to walk away from this video with at least one or two great things that you can implement immediately and become recognized as a standout success in your organization. So let's go ahead and get started. This is tonight's objectives. First, I will go over the skill sets that differentiate management from leadership and why each is important to the other. Second, I will describe many foundational leadership qualities and how they can impact your success, not only on a professional level, but all of these skills can be applied in any leadership role, whether it is within your family, your church, or your neighborhood watch group. And third, you will learn how to apply these skills that will help you grow, become more successful, and be recognized for advancement within your organization. This is one of my favorite quotes from Saul Marino that creates a framework around managing and leading. Management is the skill of getting people to do something that you want them to do because you want them to do it. Leadership is the art of getting people to do something you want them to do because they want to do it. Here's several other ways to differentiate the two. Managing produces order while leaders produce change. One manages to achieve consistency while leading is to achieve a vision. Managing is all about organizing and staffing while leadership aligns people for successful outcomes, which means that managing is much more reactive while leadership is very proactive. It is important, however, to note that all great leaders are good managers, and all great managers are good leaders. You cannot have one without the other. Depending upon where you're at in your leadership journey, it's all about balance and the investment of your energy. If you are an emerging leader, you will first have to be a good manager of your own time, emotions, and skills to then start your investment in leadership competencies. It is not uncommon to see professionals with great leadership potential jump into a leadership role only to fail because they have not yet made the investment in managing themselves, their environment, and their goals first. Equally, if you're an experienced leader, it is vital to not forget the importance of these management skills, but also find balance. All too often as leaders, we may be pulled into a time-consuming personnel issue with a problematic staff member who is unwilling to be coached, is a terror to others, or who might otherwise not be a good fit for their position. Spending too much time on managing this situation and less time in leadership, motivating and encouraging the strong contributors on your team is a common mistake. It really is best to cut your losses and move forward, setting a more positive direction for your team. So let's have a little fun. Take a few minutes and answer these two questions. Who are the 5 richest people of the world, and who were the last 5 Time Magazine People of the Year award recognized? On the wealth side, you might be thinking of the Amazon guy, Jeff Bezos, or maybe Bill Gates. I used to live in Nebraska, so Warren Buffett always comes to mind for me. Time Magazine's recognition for People of the Year, you can usually bet that there is a president on the list, and then thinking of something very newsworthy in the past 5 years, you might come up with 1 or 2 more names. So here are the answers. How many did you get right? Yes, we were spot on about Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, and Warren Buffett. Bernard Franco is CEO of the largest luxury goods business in the world, think Louis Vuitton. And there's Mark Zuckerberg hanging on to the number 5 spot. Next are Time Magazine's last 5 People of the Year. There is Donald Trump, as we predicted. Anyone know who the silence breakers are? These are the 6 women photographed for breaking the open the Me Too movement and speaking out against sexual harassment and Harvey Weinstein. Angela Merkel, the Chancellor of Germany, was recognized for her humanitarianism while taking in and encouraging others to open their borders to immigrant refugees. The Ebola crisis of 2014 is listed, and Pope Francis, the first Jesuit pope, considered to be Pope of the people and admired for his spiritual leadership. Coming up with all 5 names in each category was kind of challenging, don't you think? What about leaders in your own world? Who are the 5 teachers that helped you the most through school? Maybe your kindergarten teacher comes to mind, a professor in CLS school, or maybe a mentor you had during your internship. Who are 5 friends who helped you through a difficult time? I instantly see the faces of my sister, a childhood friend who's still a big part of my life, or maybe you have a friendly neighbor or a pastor at your church. How did coming up with these 5 names in each category compare to the last list? I would imagine that, like me, you found these names almost instantly and without hesitation. But why? It is a relationship you had with these leaders that makes them effective, influential, and memorable. That brings us to the most important leadership skill set, the ability of leaders to connect and create relationships. By getting to know people on a personal level, investing the time and energy in knowing the things that they find important, and encouraging them to do their best every day is a hallmark of a socially minded leader. By engaging in genuine acts of caring with your team, your peers, and with everyone you meet will make you rich in relationships. Never underestimate the impact of a kind word, a compliment, a handwritten thank you note, or a personal phone call. If you find yourself at an event where you don't know many people, introduce yourself and find commonalities to discuss. This is called networking, and it will create meaningful relationships that will hold value far into the future. This is a great career investment, as you may meet someone who can open doors of opportunity for you, or you might be that person for them. Then there is trust, the one thing that changes everything. In order to build those important relationships, you must earn and keep trust. DWYSYWD means do what you say you will do. Keep your commitments and/or communicate if situations change. Develop a strong sense of who you are by identifying your core values. Some of my core values include responsibility, achievement, and kindness. Once you have defined these values, it becomes much easier to make decisions from a place of integrity and credibility, as these values will be uncompromising. Never forget that your behavior as a leader of a group defines the culture of the group. Therefore, aligning your actions to your values will help the team consistently know your expectations, which will help reduce anxiety and provide greater opportunity for them to be successful. And finally, have courage and persistence. Leadership is not an easy role. Many times, you will be required to make difficult decisions, will put you at the forefront of disagreements, disappointments, and sometimes outright hostility. But this can also put you in the position of great reward for positive change, increased team satisfaction, and tremendous organizational growth. A leader must be open to new ideas and willing to take calculated risks. Mistakes will happen, as they always do, because we're human. But a leader learns from their mistakes and gets better. Never being satisfied with the status quo means always looking for opportunity, always looking for ways to do things better, more effectively, and more efficiently. So let's talk a little bit about values. I mentioned how important these are, and once defined, can help you make decisions from a place of integrity and credibility. Whatever values you identify, they will hold you steady during the rough times when you need to make a difficult decision. I mentioned earlier how important it is to cut your losses when you have a problematic staff member who is unwilling to improve. While terminating anyone is a challenging process, I would like to believe that because one of my core values is kindness, that I complete this task with as much dignity and respect for the other person as is possible. Our values will never leave us and are there to guide us as we make difficult decisions and influence others. It is a wonderful feeling to know that you are recognized and respected for the values that you hold dear. And during those dark times of an inevitable challenge, your values can provide a fresh wind of encouragement that keep you motivated and energized for positive change. How many of you have written a personal or professional mission statement? If not, why? I would imagine most of you have to set annual goals at work. Think of a professional mission statement as a 5 or 10-year goal. In 2005, I wrote my first mission statement, and it included being recognized as a national expert in laboratory leadership. This led me on a journey to volunteer within the Clinical Laboratory Management Association, CLMA, where I first held leadership positions at the chapter level, then on the International Board of Directors, and finally serving as president from 2015 to 2017. In order to know where I wanted to go, I developed my mission statement using the guidelines here. Start out by dreaming big. Put everything on the table. Then write down those goals or activities that fit within your values. You will need to spend some time on this, writing a draft, thinking on it for a while, sharing it with others for feedback, and then writing another, more specific draft. Finally, when you are happy with the direction, post it for all to see. Invite people to comment on it. Life changes, so evolve your mission statement as you evolve. Then, when you accomplish your mission, celebrate and feel proud. Serving as president of a laboratory leadership organization was one of the most meaningful and personally empowering experiences I have ever had. The ability to give back to a profession that has provided me with so much continues to be one of my highest honors. If you're more inclined to set short-term goals, here's a good outline to use. I like setting SMART goals. The more specific you can be about the goal, the easier it is to obtain. Make sure it's measurable. In other words, how will you know when you're successful? Make sure it's achievable. Goals that are too lofty can never be accomplished. Ensure your goal is relevant or has meaning. And finally, when a goal is time-bound, has a start or finish date, you will be much more successful in achieving that goal. I mentioned one of my core values was responsibility. This is very similar to being accountable. Accountability is the attitude of continually asking, what else can I do to rise above my circumstances and achieve the results I desire? It requires the commitment of being an owner of your circumstances. Feedback is a gift, and you will never know what is getting in the way of your greatest success unless you invite and receive candid feedback. Sometimes feedback is not easy to hear, but if you have the courage to face the truth, you can grow from it and become an even greater leader. This will require you to take time for reflection, own your circumstances, and find the resources necessary to do things differently the next time. Even in the best of times, quiet reflection is a great tool to help you take the time necessary to discover and develop your core values. The previous slide mentioned 100% commitment. That commitment can be translated into actionable items that will ensure success within your organization that in turn will impact the success of your team and you as a leader. I realize the phrase "drink the Kool-Aid" can be interpreted as negative. However, if you're fully invested in your company's vision and strategic goals, you can align your actions in such a way that both you and your organization will grow in a positive direction together. Once invested in this vision, seek ways to be involved and participate. Even if you're working on the bench, aspire to be a leader. Raise your hand when someone asks for a volunteer for a project. Learn as much as you can while collaborating within teams, especially if these opportunities take you outside the walls of the laboratory. Get to know other professionals at work. They will become great resources for you throughout your career there. Make a name for yourself by publishing or presenting your ideas on committees or task forces. If you are not a member of a professional organization, join. I've already mentioned some of the opportunities within CLMA, but there's also ASCP and or ASCLS. I can promise you that for every membership dollar you spend and for every minute you volunteer, you will get a return on investment 500 times over. The leadership skills you learn through volunteering in a professional organization are priceless. It is a safe place to learn and gain confidence that you can then take back to your work environment. Well, you can learn, you can grow, you can invest, and you can be committed, but we all have those days where you suddenly find yourself in the belly of a snake. Those dark times where we all struggle and question ourselves. Am I doing this right? Am I enough? Of course you are enough. You are exactly where you are meant to be, and you are successful because you are determined to be so. You also know that the best leaders never get too big for their britches. In other words, you know you cannot do it alone. You are not an island, and you will always have people to support you. Asking for help is not a weakness, and showing your vulnerability to your team is a strength. No one ever knows it all, and we all must work together for the best outcomes. This is why leaders get back up, dust themselves off, and keep trying. There's a term for emotional resiliency. It's called bounce. Having the courage to face adversity and approach all situations with optimism and enthusiasm will help you bounce back to be a standout leader in your team or organization. Negativity is cheap, but it takes strength to continue to believe and find passion in what you do. While the advice to fake it till you make it may seem cavalier, it can actually become a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you believe you will succeed, you can. Developing your emotional intelligence muscle is what will create the ability to add bounce to your skill set. What is emotional intelligence? Well, I'm sure you've heard of IQ or your IQ score. Emotional intelligence or EQ is similar but has been associated with more leadership success than IQ. It is a skill set which describes a person's ability to recognize and monitor one's own feelings and emotion and the emotions of others, and to use this understanding to make better decisions and improve behavior. We are all emotional beings, and how we feel often has a direct link to how we behave. Therefore, mastering emotional intelligence is the ability to make emotions work for you instead of against you. There are 4 different facets to emotional intelligence, the first of which is being self-aware. It is important for you to deeply understand your strengths and weaknesses, which includes your ability to recognize your emotional triggers, and we all have them. It is helpful to have this understanding as we learn to self-manage our behavior and control negative impulses that get in the way of our success. We've all seen people, or maybe you've been one yourself, to experience an emotional meltdown at work. Looking back, how do you believe this was received by leadership? How about someone who constantly must be told what to do next? A person high in self-management is intrinsically motivated for achievement, is a self-starter, and can work independently towards a successful outcome. If you are skilled at managing your emotions, you naturally strive to be more positive and can easily develop that emotional resiliency I mentioned earlier. Emotionally intelligent leaders are also very aware of their surroundings and the temperature or emotions of the people around them. They feel empathy towards others and have high organizational awareness, meaning they understand how to be successful within the culture and the unwritten rules of their organization. Finally, if you have strong relationship management, you are someone everyone else wants to work with. You're valued for your knowledge and your collaborative abilities. People come to you for advice or inspiration because you're a great mentor and you're good at influencing others in a positive direction. Effective communication is a key for all leaders. If you've read the book Crucial Conversation or have watched the video I put together on this subject, you will know that crucial conversation happens when there's a difference in opinion and the stakes are high. In other words, emotions are involved. When people are in the midst of this challenging type of discourse and they feel threatened or unsafe, there are two common things that can happen. Either that person will go into silence, where they will retreat into themselves and stop talking, or violence, where they might have an emotional outburst, yell, or engage in an activity that they might later regret. It becomes important for you as a leader to not only have the emotional intelligence to see the situation before it happens, but to know how to bring the conversation back to safety if it does happen. I have found that it's far easier to prepare for a crucial conversation, like giving someone bad news, than it is to be in the midst of what seems like a very normal conversation, and then all of a sudden it turns for the worst. This is, again, where emotional self-awareness becomes important, because you understand your emotional triggers. You can feel the physical response that can clue you in to the need to self-manage both your emotional and behavioral responses. And finally, leaders build great teams. With high relationship intelligence, you can encourage others, recognize their achievements, and celebrate. By showing confidence in your ability, it builds confidence in others. By remaining humble and vulnerable with your team, it makes them safe to make mistakes too. This is what creating a just culture is all about. A strict, punitive culture will cause people to hide their mistakes, which does not allow for any process to get better or allow anyone to grow. Be that resource when they need it, but also step back and give them the autonomy that they need to be successful on their own. Be the role model of positivity and achievement, inspiring your peers and team to do the same. Have fun with what you do, and that enthusiasm will be infectious. So thank you for listening. Please come back and visit my website, www.thelableadercoach.com, as I frequently add new videos and additional information that I am confident that you will find useful in your leadership journey. As always, you can reach out to me personally by email at patty@thelableadercoach.com or visit my Facebook page. If you provide me with your email address or like my Facebook page, you'll be the first to receive valuable checkoff lists, leadership material of proven strategies, and invitations to free webinars that are sure to increase your confidence and success as a laboratory leader. Thank you very much for tuning in tonight. It's always a pleasure to visit with you. Come back soon.